Have you ever felt like you met someone on a level that transcends time and space? As if, beneath that first conversation, there were already years of silent intimacy waiting to be awakened. Carl Jung revolutionized our understanding of relationships by revealing that certain connections operate in layers far deeper than consciousness can grasp. But here's what few people understand. Your true soulmate isn't the person who completes you. They're the one who awakens your capacity to become whole. Jung discovered that certain souls recognize each other not because they're identical, but because they carry complementary pieces of a cosmic puzzle that only makes sense when united. In this video, you'll discover the 13 unmistakable signs Jung identified as evidence that you found your true soulmate. If you ignore these signs, you might miss the chance to experience the kind of love that transforms not just your life, but your very essence. Because there's a world of difference between being in love with someone and recognizing a soul that came into this world to walk alongside you. So watch until the end, because this difference could determine whether you'll live a life of surface-level connections or experience the kind of union the ancients called sacred marriage. For Jung, the soulmate goes far beyond popular romance. It's based on the complementary interlocking of archetypes in our collective unconscious, creating profound harmony. Jung described 3 levels of connection: the persona, social mask; the ego, conscious identity; and the self, our authentic and transcendent core. The soulmate connects at the level of the self, recognizing each other's eternal essence. This connection frequently involves the projection of the anima or animus, where we recognize in the other the external manifestation of our archetypal images of the sacred feminine or masculine. There are 2 types of projection: positive, where we idealize qualities we wish to develop, like admiring the other's confidence that reflects our dormant potential; and negative, where we reject aspects that mirror our denied shadow. The crucial difference lies between healthy archetypal projection and destructive neurotic projection. In neurotic projection, we idealize the other to fill personal voids. Authentic soulmates go through a process of projection withdrawal, dissolving illusions and allowing genuine love to emerge. Loving the real person, not an idealized version. The soulmate doesn't mean absence of conflict. On the contrary, they challenge each other, activating shadows to promote spiritual growth. The true soulmate catalyzes your individuation. They don't complete you, but awaken your capacity to complete yourself. To identify projections, ask yourself, what do I admire about this person? And investigate whether that quality exists within you. Another sign is the compulsive need for the other to be a certain way. The soulmate brings deep acceptance of what the other is, without demanding changes. According to analytical psychology, individuation is the central process of human life. The journey to become truly unique, integrating all fragmented aspects of the psyche into a coherent whole. And Jung discovered something fascinating. Certain people enter our lives specifically to accelerate this process of inner development. The true soulmate isn't someone who makes your life easier. They're someone who makes your life more authentic. They appear as a living mirror that reflects not only who you are, but who you have the potential to become. This can be simultaneously inspiring and uncomfortable. During individuation, we must integrate our shadow, all the aspects of ourselves we've learned to reject or hide. A soulmate frequently activates this shadow in ways we can't ignore. If you've always prided yourself on being rational, they might awaken your repressed emotionality. If you identify as independent, they might reveal your hidden need for connection. Jung observed that this process of mutual shadow activation is essential for mature relationships. Couples who avoid awakening challenging aspects in each other often stagnate in comfort zones that prevent real growth. The soulmate comes with the courage and responsibility to stimulate conscious evolution. Another crucial aspect of individuation is developing our inferior function, the one we least master among thinking, feeling, sensation, and intuition. The soulmate often embodies this function we need to develop. If you're predominantly intuitive, you might be drawn to someone who teaches you about sensation and bodily presence. Soulmate love also catalyzes what Jung called ego transcendence, moments where your fixed identity temporarily dissolves, allowing broader aspects of your personality to emerge. This can happen during physical intimacy, deep conversations, or simply in each other's silent presence. Jung understood that individuation is a process that never completely ends, and the soulmate is someone willing to grow with you over decades. It's not someone who falls in love with who you are now, but someone who commits to who you both can become through the shared journey of conscious awakening. The difference between soulmate love and neurotic attachment can be subtle, but Jung identified clear criteria to distinguish them. Attachment arises from lack. You need the person to feel complete, validated, or secure. Soulmate arises from abundance. You choose the person because you recognize something transcendent in them. In attachment, there's often an obsessive quality. You think about the person compulsively, feel anxiety when they're unavailable, interpret every gesture seeking signs of rejection or approval. Soulmate comes with underlying peace. Even in intensity, there's deep trust in the connection. Attachment often involves extreme idealization. You can't see flaws in the person, or minimize problematic aspects because you need to maintain the fantasy. With a soulmate, you clearly see their imperfections, and still feel that deep recognition. Another criterion is your relationship with your own life. Attachment often makes you neglect other important aspects: friendships, career, personal growth. Soulmate, paradoxically, inspires you to become more dedicated to your own development and purpose. The quality of communication also reveals the difference. In attachment, there are often psychological games, subtle manipulation, fear of being completely honest. With a soulmate, you quickly develop a capacity for authentic vulnerability, without fear of judgment. Finally, Jung noted that attachment generates stagnation. You stop growing because you found your emotional comfort zone. Soulmate generates expansion. You feel constantly stimulated to evolve, explore new aspects of yourself, become more than you were before. And now let's understand each of the 13 signs Jung identified as evidence that you found your true soulmate. The first sign is a sense of familiarity that transcends linear time. Jung called this archetypal remembrance, when two souls recognize each other at a level that completely bypasses conscious experience. It's not just comfort with someone new. It's a strange certainty that you've walked together before. This familiarity manifests in specific ways. You've known each other for just days, but can predict each other's reactions with surprising accuracy. There are inside jokes that emerge naturally, as if they were continuations of old conversations. You catch yourself talking to them the same way you'd talk to someone you've been close to for years. Jung explained this happens because soulmates often share similar archetypal patterns, universal forms of processing experience that exist in the collective unconscious. It's as if you speak the same soul language, even though your conscious personalities are different. There's also a quality of absence of surprise when you discover deep compatibilities. Instead of being shocked by similarities, there's a sense of course we like the same things, or obviously we think similarly about this. It's as if the recognition confirms something you already knew unconsciously. This sign distinguishes itself from simple compatibility because it includes a strange temporal dimension, as if you were resuming something interrupted, not starting something new. Jung discovered that soulmates often demonstrate unconscious mirroring, automatic imitation of gestures, expressions, and even breathing patterns that happens without conscious awareness. This goes far beyond normal mirror neurons. It's a synchronization that suggests connection at deep levels of the psyche. Notice if you automatically assume similar postures when talking. If one crosses their legs, the other does the same seconds later. If she tilts her head a certain way, you find yourself making the identical movement. This happens regardless of who's leading. Both mirror each other unconsciously. Mirroring also manifests in language. You begin using similar expressions, develop shared vocabulary, adopt each other's speech patterns without realizing it. Friends might comment that you talk exactly alike, even after a short time together. Jung observed that this mirroring indicates synchronization of fundamental psychic rhythms. It's not conscious imitation, but automatic harmonization that suggests your consciousnesses operate on compatible frequencies. It's like two instruments naturally tuned to the same pitch. There's also emotional mirroring, when one feels inexplicable sadness and discovers the other was going through difficulties, even at a distance, or moments where both feel simultaneous impulses to connect, resulting in calls or messages sent at the same moment. One of the most challenging but confirmatory signs of a soulmate is mutual shadow activation, those aspects of yourselves you've learned to repress or deny. Jung understood that true soulmates don't just complement each other, but also confront each other in ways that promote integral growth. Maybe you've always prided yourself on being logical and controlled, but in her presence, you discovered capacities for spontaneity and emotionality you didn't know you possessed. Or she always saw herself as independent and strong, but with you began exploring vulnerability and the need for care without feeling diminished. This shadow activation can be temporarily uncomfortable. You might get irritated with aspects of her that actually reflect rejected parts of yourself. If she's too dramatic, maybe she's mirroring your own repressed expressiveness. If he's too sensitive, he might be reflecting your denied vulnerability. Jung observed that superficial couples avoid awakening shadows in each other, maintaining safe but limited connections. The soulmate has the courage to stimulate hidden aspects because they intuit that this activation serves both people's growth. The decisive sign is that, despite initial discomfort, you can integrate these shadow aspects constructively. Instead of rejecting what you discover, you use these revelations to become more complete and authentic. Sign 4 is: the relationship makes sense. Even in silence. Jung identified shared silence as one of the clearest indicators of soulmate connection. When two people can be together without needing to fill every moment with words, it indicates synchronization at very deep levels of consciousness. Observe if you can remain silent for long periods without discomfort. Not the tense silence of someone who doesn't know what to say, but the relaxed silence of someone genuinely present with the other. It's as if communication continues happening on energetic levels, even in the absence of words. There's also a quality of telepathic communication, moments where one knows exactly what the other is thinking without anything being verbalized. You look at each other and simply know. There's mutual understanding that transcends the need for explanation. Jung understood that this shared silence indicates you connect in what he called common psychic space, a dimension where two consciousnesses temporarily overlap. In this space, communication happens through direct resonance, not through verbal symbols. Another aspect is that simple activities gain meditative quality when done together. Cooking, walking, even doing household chores become contemplative experiences when there's this silent attunement. Mutual presence transforms ordinary actions into moments of transcendent connection. In sign 5, you experience synchronicities. Carl Jung coined the term synchronicity to describe meaningful coincidences that suggest an underlying order in life's apparent chaos. When soulmates meet, they often experience explosions of synchronicities that confirm the special nature of their connection. These synchronicities can include impossible coincidences about the past, discovering you were in the same place at significant moments in your lives, without knowing each other, or that you have family or friendship connections that created an invisible network linking you before you even met. There are also everyday synchronicities, calling each other simultaneously, discovering you were thinking the same thing at the same moment, receiving messages or external signs that confirm something about the relationship. Songs play at just the right time, specific numbers appear repeatedly, events align in ways that seem orchestrated. Jung observed that these synchronicities aren't accidental, but manifestations of an archetypal intelligence operating through the collective unconscious. It's as if the universe conspires to confirm and support connections that serve both people's spiritual development. The most significant aspect is that both notice and value these synchronicities. It's not just one person interpreting coincidences as signs, but both spontaneously recognizing that something special is operating in their connection. Sign 6 is that the relationship evolves with obstacles. Unlike fragile relationships that break under difficulties, soulmate connections demonstrate an alchemical quality. They strengthen through challenges. Jung observed that external obstacles often serve to reveal and solidify authentic connections. When you face problems, whether differences of opinion, difficult external circumstances, or family pressures, you discover that working through these difficulties brings you closer instead of driving you apart. Each resolved conflict creates greater intimacy and mutual understanding. There's a quality of us against the world that emerges naturally. Not in a paranoid way, but with a sense that you're a team facing challenges together. Problems become opportunities to demonstrate commitment and collaborative creativity. Jung understood that soulmate includes the ability to transform friction into growth. Moments of tension become catalysts for deeper conversations, greater honesty, or discovery of aspects of each other that hadn't been revealed in easy moments. There's also natural persistence. Both have the instinct to work through difficulties instead of simply giving up when things get complicated. Not from stubbornness or neurotic attachment, but because they feel the connection is worth the effort of conscious evolution. The decisive sign is that you emerge from conflicts feeling closer and understanding each other better. The 7th sign is that she inspires your best version. Jung observed that true soulmates function as mutual catalysts for developing latent potentials. In her presence, you naturally access higher aspects of your personality, not through external pressure, but through spontaneous inspiration. Maybe you've never been interested in art, but her passion awakens your own dormant creativity. Or she's always been shy, but your confidence encourages her to express herself in ways she never imagined possible. This happens organically, without conscious effort to change each other. There's a quality of mutual elevation. Both feel inspired to be more generous, courageous, creative, or compassionate, simply by being together. It's as if the other's presence awakened qualities that existed potentially, but needed specific stimulation to emerge. Jung understood this happens because the soulmate recognizes and reflects our higher self, that more integrated and developed version of ourselves that represents our maximum potential. She sees who you can become, and through that recognition, you begin to become it. This distinguishes itself from relationships where you feel pressure to improve yourself to please the other. With a soulmate, growth happens because you want to be worthy of the special connection you share. It's inspiration, not obligation. Jung noted that in the presence of a soulmate, we often experience automatic changes in our habitual behavioral patterns, not through conscious effort, but through natural resonance with their energy. It's as if their presence activates dormant aspects of your personality. And this is sign 8. Maybe you're naturally reserved, but with her you find yourself speaking openly about topics you'd normally keep private. Or she's usually very analytical, but in your presence allows herself to be more spontaneous and intuitive. These changes happen without forcing. They simply emerge naturally. There are also alterations in bodily rhythms. Maybe you normally speak fast, but with her you automatically slow down the pace to create more intimacy. Or your sleep patterns spontaneously adjust to become synchronized. It's as if your nervous systems seek automatic harmonization. This indicates compatibility at deep archetypal levels. It's not that you're pretending to be different. It's that each other's presence allows more authentic aspects of your personalities to manifest. Friends and family might comment that you seem different when you're together, more relaxed, more joyful, more present. This happens because the soulmate creates a psychological environment where you can drop certain defenses and allow more genuine versions of yourselves to appear. One of the clearest signs of soulmate connection is the spontaneous ability to be vulnerable with each other, without fear of judgment or rejection. Jung understood this indicates archetypal trust, a deep certainty that you're safe with each other. Maybe you normally hide insecurities or weaknesses, but with her, you find yourself sharing fears, doubts, and aspects of yourself you consider unacceptable. And discovering that, instead of driving her away, this honesty creates greater intimacy. There's also an absence of the need to constantly impress. With a soulmate, you can have bad days, show imperfections, admit when you don't know something, without feeling it threatens the connection. There's mutual acceptance that allows you to be human with each other. Jung observed that this mutual vulnerability is possible because the soulmate sees beyond social masks straight to the essence. There's no point in pretending to be perfect because she already recognizes and loves who you really are, including your flaws. This manifests in small daily gestures. Crying in front of her without feeling ashamed, admitting when you're afraid, asking for help without feeling weak. There's a sense of emotional home, where you can rest from the demands of performing for the world. Sign 10 is that there's a shared mission or purpose. Jung observed that soulmates often recognize each other not just as personal partners, but as collaborators in some mission or purpose that transcends the individual relationship. It's as if you came into the world to create or contribute something specific that's only possible through union. This can be something grand, a joint artistic project, humanitarian work, or enterprise that serves the community. Or it can be something more subtle, the way you together positively influence friends and family, or how your union models a type of relationship that inspires others. There's a sense that you're stronger together, not just emotionally, but in terms of capacity for impact in the world. Ideas flow more easily when you're together. Projects that seemed impossible alone become viable as a team. Jung understood this happens because the soulmate allows access to collective levels of the psyche where transpersonal purposes exist. When two people connect deeply, they can become channels for creative or healing energies that benefit broader communities. The specific sign is that you naturally begin dreaming and planning together. Not just about vacations or home, but about how you can contribute something meaningful. There's a shared sense that your union has purpose beyond personal happiness. Sign 11 is that you'd choose her again, even with pain. This is perhaps the most definitive test of soulmate according to Jung. Even knowing all the difficulties, conflicts, and pain the relationship has brought or will bring, you'd choose her again without hesitation. Not from masochism, but because you recognize that growth through this connection is worth any suffering. There's a quality of fatalistic love, a deep acceptance that this person and this relationship are inevitable in your life, regardless of external circumstances. Even if you had to separate for practical reasons, you'd carry something of this connection eternally. Jung observed this distinguishes soulmate from relationships based only on pleasure or convenience. True soulmate includes willingness to face dark aspects, work through real conflicts, grow in ways that are sometimes uncomfortable. There's also an expanded temporal perspective. You don't evaluate the relationship just by present moments, but by the complete arc of transformation it represents in your life. Even difficult periods are seen as necessary for the development you came to experience together. The specific sign is an unshakable certainty that, given the opportunity to live your life again, you'd make the same choices that led to this encounter. There's a sense that everything, including previous relationships, mistakes, sufferings, was preparation for this specific connection. The next sign is that her love is self-sustaining. Jung identified as a characteristic of soulmate a specific quality of love he called self-sustained. She loves you not for what you do for her, but for what you essentially are. This love persists regardless of mood, circumstances, or external changes. You notice that even when you're going through difficult phases, maybe depressed, stressed, or simply not being your best version, her love remains constant. It doesn't diminish when you're not performing optimally or meeting her needs perfectly. There's an unconditional quality that doesn't depend on immediate reciprocity. She can be generous and loving, even when you're temporarily closed off or emotionally unavailable. It's not that she's naive or permissive, but that she sees beyond temporary states to your permanent essence. Jung observed this is possible because the soulmate operates at the level of the self, not the ego. She recognizes eternal aspects in you that transcend conscious personality or momentary mood. It's as if she sees your soul behind your masks and variable psychological states. This manifests in small, consistent gestures. She continues showing care even when you're going through tensions. There's fundamental loyalty that doesn't shake before superficial conflicts. You feel this love has a quality of permanence that transcends temporary circumstances. The final sign Jung identified as definitive of soulmate is the ability to maintain psychic connection, even during physical separations. It's not just longing or memory, but a tangible sense of continuous presence that transcends distance or time. You can be in different cities and still feel her energy, almost as if she were in the same environment. There are moments where you feel she's thinking of you, and later discover she really was. Or waking up with the sense that something important happened to her, and later confirming your intuition. Jung explained this happens because soulmates develop what he called a shared psychic field, a dimension where your consciousnesses remain interconnected regardless of physical proximity. It's as if you operate on a common energetic frequency. There's also a quality of inner presence. Even when she's not physically available, you can access an internalized version of her that offers comfort, guidance, or simply emotional companionship. It's not fantasy or memory, but active psychic presence. The specific sign is that physical absences don't interrupt the sense of connection. They may create longing, but not anxiety about the continuity of the bond. There's deep certainty that the connection exists in dimensions that transcend physical presence, and that temporary separations don't threaten this underlying reality. Jung understood that soulmate recognition isn't always immediate or clear. Sometimes recognition happens gradually, or there are elements that confuse initial perception. If you're uncertain, there are specific ways to clarify the nature of the connection. First, observe patterns over time, instead of isolated moments. Soulmate reveals itself through consistency. The signs appear repeatedly in different circumstances. If you only notice a few signs sporadically, it might be normal compatibility, not necessarily soulmate. Jungian studies suggest paying attention to what he called bodily resonance, how your body responds in her presence over time. Soulmate usually produces sensations of calm, expansion, or increased energy. If you frequently feel anxious, drained, or on alert, this might indicate other dynamics. Also examine your capacity for mutual growth. Soulmate stimulates evolution, not stagnation. If you feel challenged in constructive ways, that's positive. If you feel constantly criticized or diminished, that suggests other relational dynamics. Finally, trust your deep intuition, not superficial desires. Jung observed that the higher self knows when it has found its counterpart, but this wisdom can be obscured by emotional needs or social expectations. Meditation, reflective journaling, or therapy can help access this inner clarity. One of the most crucial distinctions Jung made was between authentic soulmate connections and intense but toxic relationships that can be confused with destiny. Both can involve intensity, synchronicities, and transformation, but the results are drastically different. In toxic relationships disguised as soulmate, intensity comes from trauma, not recognition. There's constant drama, cycles of approach and withdrawal, emotional roller coasters that leave both exhausted. The person might awaken your shadow, but in destructive ways that create more inner fragmentation. Jung observed that toxic relationships often involve massive projection. You see in the person qualities they don't really possess, or they represent unresolved aspects of past traumas. There's obsession instead of love, need instead of choice, neurotic fusion instead of conscious union. The crucial difference lies in long-term results. Soulmate produces greater personal integrity, expanded self-knowledge, increased capacity to love others, spiritual growth. Toxic relationship produces fragmentation, emotional dependency, isolation from other important connections, psychological regression. With soulmate, you become more yourself. With toxic relationship, you lose yourself in dynamics that serve both people's unresolved complexes. True soulmate supports your individuation, never sabotages it. If there's violence, physical or emotional, consistent manipulation, isolation from other important relationships, or degradation of your self-esteem, that's not soulmate, regardless of the intensity of the connection. Soulmate elevates, doesn't diminish your humanity. If you've recognized your soulmate through these signs, Jung offered specific guidance for honoring and nurturing this sacred connection. First, resist the temptation to idealize her or the relationship. Soulmate doesn't mean perfection. It means compatibility for mutual growth through acceptance of each other's complete humanity. Commit to what Jung called conscious work, using the connection as a catalyst for continuous personal development. This means being willing to look at shadow aspects that emerge, communicate with radical honesty, support each individual's growth. Develop rituals or practices that honor the sacred nature of the connection. Shared meditation, regular deep conversations, time dedicated to exploring meanings and synchronicities that appear in the relationship. Jung also emphasized the importance of maintaining healthy individual identities. Soulmate complements, doesn't replace, your relationship with yourself. Continue developing your own interests, friendships, and life purpose. Finally, recognize that you've found something rare and precious. Don't take the connection for granted. Cultivate gratitude, presence, and reverence for the opportunity to experience this type of love that few find in a lifetime. Carl Jung dedicated his life to understanding the deepest mysteries of the human psyche, but perhaps no discovery was more transformative than his insight about soulmates. He understood that certain connections transcend chance, serving as portals for spiritual awakening that transforms not just two lives, but ripples through generations. If you've recognized your soulmate through these signs, know that you're participating in something ancestral and sacred, a union the ancients called hierogamos, the divine marriage between complementary aspects of universal consciousness. If you haven't found her yet, trust that your journey of individuation is preparing you to recognize her when the right moment comes. Jung reminds us that soulmate isn't about completing you, but about awakening in you the capacity to become whole. It's about recognizing in the other's face a reflection of your own divinity, and allowing that recognition to transform you into instruments of conscious love in the world. Now I want to know, how many of these signs did you recognize? Leave in the comments, "I found my soulmate," if you've already lived this transcendent experience, or "I'm ready to recognize her," if you're still on the journey. And subscribe to the channel because we'll continue exploring the deepest mysteries of human consciousness through Carl Jung's timeless wisdom.